In the dark and dusty streets of the Middle Ages, you needed more than just bread to survive. You needed wit. Archie was one of those children who had nothing but a tongue as sharp as poison. While he filled his belly by making people laugh in village squares, he was unknowingly preparing for the greatest gamble of his life. In this world, you were either an oppressed peasant or the sole source of joy for those whom everyone else feared to look at. One day, fortune smiled upon Archie, or so he thought. When he was chosen as the Jester for the kingdom's most magnificent palace, he traded his tattered rags for the famous red and yellow motley. As he walked through the corridors, every chime of the bells on his hat was, in fact, tolling the end of his freedom. He was now the king's property. The man sitting across from Archie was the most ruthless figure in the kingdom. The king had everything, but he was starving for joy. While even looking into his eyes was an act of raw courage, Archie was forced to make him laugh. For Archie, the king's smile meant life. His frown meant the executioner. As years passed, Archie became a legend. He performed acrobatics on great banquet tables, juggled, and drove even the sternest nobles into fits of laughter. Under the glittering lights of the hall, Archie was at his peak. Everyone loved him, everyone laughed with him. But the banquet table he stood upon was no more than a thin layer of ice that could shatter at any moment. Yet Archie was more than just an entertainer. In the dark corners of the palace, he whispered with other jesters and read secret notes. He knew who betrayed whom and which noble plotted behind the king's back. Being a jester was the perfect camouflage. The chime of his bells masked the secrets that were never meant to be heard. When the war bells rang, the jester's bells fell silent. The king gave Archie his most difficult task, carrying a mocking message to the enemy commander. As Archie stood trembling on the muddy battlefield with a white flag, he realized there was nothing funny about death. He survived that day, but something in his soul had changed forever. And then came that infamous night. The hall was crowded once again, and wine flowed like water. Archie fell victim to exhaustion and years of overconfidence. He made a joke so sharp that time froze at that very second. The laughter cut like a knife. The cold, lifeless expression on the king's face meant the end of Archie's career, and perhaps his life. As the hall fell into a tomb-like silence, Archie stood frozen on the table. The following months were spent in a dark cell. The bells no longer rang, and no one laughed. Within the stone walls there was only the sound of dripping water and Archie's regret. The man who once had kings bowing before him was now desperate for a single beam of moonlight, crushed under the weight of silence. The king did not execute him, but he exiled him. One morning, Archie stepped out of the massive castle gate. His colorful clothes were covered in dust. His bells were still on his head, but his spirit was weary. Walking toward a foggy future with only a small bundle in his hand, he left a whole empire behind. He was no longer a peasant, nor a jester. He was simply a traveler who had paid the heaviest price for a laugh. If you enjoyed Archie's journey, don't forget to like and subscribe. More stories are waiting for you.